Welcome to Focus on Why. I'm Amy Rowlandson, your host. Join me to explore the compelling stories, profound insights, and captivating experiences shared by my guests from all over the world. Focusing on the importance of why, these relatable, uplifting, and inspiring conversations will empower, motivate, and guide you to create your own purposeful way of life. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why. Before we dive in, are you considering creating a podcast, or are you already hosting one, but it's not producing the results you desire? As a podcast strategist, I can help you launch or relaunch a purposeful and profitable podcast that will inspire, entertain, and educate a global audience. Book a call with me today. The link is in the show notes, and let's transform your podcast vision into reality. Today on Focus on Why, I am joined by Sue Ellar. Welcome.
Hi, Amy. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, an absolute pleasure. And a big shout out to Sarah Breton for our introduction. It's always great to have recommendations.
Yeah, Sarah's fab. I'm so glad she put us in touch.
Yeah, brilliant. So what is it that you are focusing on at the moment?
So I'm passionate about health, energy, vitality, and longevity. And so the work that I'm doing, the work that really motivates me, is helping mainly women who are trying to change the world in some way, to understand and to connect with how amazing they can feel when they're eating in a way that supports their best health. Now, I know that everybody goes blah, 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 healthy eating, because they're probably thinking of they should eat for health in their future, right? We all know that. We're meant to eat healthier now so that we don't get this and don't get that. And, but it's intangible. It's intangible. And how many of us can truly connect to what we're going to be doing in the future and what our values will be in the future? The mission that I'm on is to help people understand that the way they're eating now affects the way they feel right now, and their energy and their vitality and their contribution. So I'm on a mission to help people change the way they're eating in such a way that feels not just better, but feels like it's something they really want to do. Because when they eat in a better way, they, lo and behold, get more energy. They feel that, it increases their performance or their productivity, because now the afternoon slump is a thing of the past. And for anybody who's looking to overcome symptoms such as, chronic digestive disorders, excess weight, carrying that unwanted weight, maybe that's come on recently through perimenopause, or maybe that weight has been there for decades of yo-yo dieting. The answer is in eating a more natural diet. And so I'm passionate about getting women to embed this natural way of eating that just feels doable and not remotely daunting.
Now, I'm hearing from this passion that's coming through. Often when I have a guest who's as passionate as you are, it's because there has been a contrast yourself. And I'm just wondering, you're nodding. So tell me more. What is the contrast of where you've been to where you are now?
Isn't it always that way? Isn't it? And, when you've experienced a life-changing transformation or some kind of life-changing event or learning that just makes the big difference to your life in some way, you want to go on to teach it, right? And that's exactly what's happened to me. So my story, we go back to a teenager, always struggling with my weight, always being considered, feeling like the fat one, feeling like I was a failure at diets, could never stick to a diet, dieting from an early age because I thought I was fat. And I think that obsession with needing to be a certain size and shape as a teenager led to a very unhealthy relationship with food. Decades of dieting and then overindulgence trying to stick to a diet, felt like I couldn't do it, felt like a failure. This diet, it's me. There's something wrong with me, which ultimately that led me to feel like there was something wrong with me. And it wasn't until my late 40s when I discovered that it's not about dieting. It's actually about in learning to eat in a new way. And actually, it's not a new way at all. It's the way we're meant to be eating. It's the old way, if you like. So, my late 40s, I came across a program that was promising me not just weight loss, but a new bill of health. And I thought, oh, this could be interesting. It sounds different. It sounded like it wasn't about dieting and willpower and weighing in and measuring success on how many pounds you'd lost each week. But it sounded to me like it was something that was much more sensible, because I'd been asking myself my whole life, well, how are we meant to be eating? Because clearly the food that's available to us easily on the shelves or in the food establishments is not really the way we're meant to be eating. I mean, I think we know that. But how are we meant to be eating is a question I asked myself for a long time, and I didn't really know the answer. But this program taught me how we were meant to be eating. And in a short space of time, the changes that happened in my body were just incredible. So one of the biggest changes was, yeah, I released weight, a dress size or two. And that made a huge difference to me. And I thought that's what I was looking for. But actually, I got much more than that. Um, Joint pain and stiffness that I'd been suffering for probably 15 years, since my mid 30s, just went. And now my body's flexible, and I don't have to come down the stairs, in an odd way, because there's no mobility in my hips. Now I'm feeling flexible and mobile without any pain or stiffness. And that was incredible. The change that brought was incredible. Things like acid reflux gone, allergies improved, and my energy was now. I didn't realize that you could feel this energetic. I didn't realize that you could have this kind of consistent energy all day long, because I thought that the afternoon slump was, we were meant to have it. I thought we were meant to have, in fact, I would say this, oh, according to what I've read, we're meant to be having 2 sleeps. And that's probably what the afternoon slump is, because humans meant to have 2 sleeps. It's not that. It's actually the afternoon slump is a result of the food we're eating. And I discovered freedom from that, and I just couldn't believe it. So with the health and energy benefits, oh, not to mention, I stopped losing my hair. In my 30s, my hair started thinning. And I just thought, oh, getting towards perimenopause, that's one of the things that can happen. Talking about perimenopause as well, night sweats. I hadn't even noticed that in my 40s, night sweats had started happening. And so I was on a path towards menopause, and realized that my cycle was changing. But when I changed the way I was eating, not only did my cycle come back for a few years, more healthily, the night sweats went, and any other symptoms that I was experiencing just went, all through food. And I think the biggest shift for me, the weight, the health, but the fact that this is now lasting, the fact that whatever this has done to my brain and my habits and my want power, wanting to eat in this way rather than doing it because you think you should or you have to. That's the biggest shift, is this lasting, new, peaceful relationship with food that just feels effortless. And it's just been huge for me. And of course, I've gone on to become a coach because I want other women to have this. It's not just women. Of course, I coach men and whole families and teenagers, but the main client that comes to me is the client that I'm most passionate about, which is basically a mirror image of me, somebody in their 40s, 50s, 60s that's struggling and is looking for an answer that's not the next diet.
I hear you. And this freedom that you mention, freedom is A word that is used often in the podcast, and it tends to be related to something. So, what does freedom mean to you?
Do you know, it is a word that is so embedded in what I coach. First of all, the results give you that body freedom, the body confidence, the freedom to go out there and wear what you want and to have that strength in not just identity, but physical wellness, to be free and to get out there and to do what you want to do in the world, show up, speak on stage, swim swim in cold waters, climb a hill. For me, it's spending a month every year on a Greek island, riding a motorbike around the island, swimming in the sea, having a photo shoot, being confident to show up on camera and think, hey, I not only do I look like a normal person, I actually look like me. I actually look like I think I look on the inside. When look at that's it, it's that mirror identity. That's the big sort of freedom to be who you really want to be in your skin. That's the first freedom. The next freedom is freedom from ailments, those chronic ailments, so many of them that we don't realize that we're experiencing that can be improved through food. So I've talked about gut health, acid reflux, IBS, indigestion, bloated, constipated, these kinds of things, gas and wind, all these kinds of things most people live with as normal part of life and they'll take a medication for. Well, imagine being free from all those things and just feeling like your digestion is just great. It just works. Freedom from ailments such as joint pain and stiffness. Freedom in knowing that the way you're eating is putting you on a path to wellness for the rest of your life. And you know it, not because we're telling you it, but because you feel it. You feel like your health is the best it's ever been. And because of that, you can see into the future and know that you have this freedom from the worry, the risk of long-term ailments, such as diabetes or heart disease, or, and we know that certain cancers are related to the way we eat. We know this now. So that freedom in knowing that you're gifting yourself the best of health. And there's another one, and that is freedom with food. So many of my clients, in the same way that I felt for decades, torn between wanting to eat the delicious thing, but not being allowed it because we're on a diet. Well, the freedom to experience your food lifestyle in a way that is, most of the time, I am driven to eat for health, most of the time, because my healthy eating is delicious and fresh and colourful, and it makes me feel amazing. But also the freedom to know that when I want the most delicious cake or dessert or gastronomic meal or glass of wine or piece of delicious chocolate, that I'm free to have those things as well, because now I have this wise, conscious, constructive relationship with all foods. And so freedom, there's so many ways. And do you know what? You've hit on that, because my top value in life is freedom. And I think that's probably why I'm passionate about what I do.
It is so clear, and this freedom to, freedom from, freedom in, and freedom with, all of the elements that come together. It, it it's so clear to me. It really is. I see this beautiful sense of liberation that it has enabled you to then use this passion, but not just the passion. You spoke earlier about the energy, the vitality, and the longevity. It's the purpose. It's now become this overriding direction that you're taking your life in. So tell me, let's talk about the purpose. What does it mean to you?
I've always been somebody who wants to change the world. And I've pretty much been on a journey to do that in different ways. Um, so, in my 20s, I became very adept with IT skills, Apple Mac in particular. And my purpose back then was I'm going to set up an IT consultancy. I'm going to help people with their Mac. And I did that for a number of years. And my purpose there was not my love of IT. My purpose was helping people bring their thing to the world through tech. And I happened to be just really, ninja skills on the Mac. And I started coaching that. But it was for women who were trying to bring something to the world. As that evolved, that turned into wanting to help people feel more joy in the world, in their lives. Now, one of the strings to my bow is I love to sing. And my passion for singing and joy and life and freedom led me towards becoming a natural voice choir leader. And so when I experienced the joy, the sheer, what can I call it other than pure joy, exhilaration of singing in a group of people, not singers, ordinary people with ordinary voices in a group, but being led in harmony to produce the most amazing sound in a circle together, not with hymn sheets, not with word sheets or musical dots, but in a circle, in a connected way. And I experienced that. I knew that I wanted to go on and bring that to more people. So again, it's about bringing joy, connection, and a sense of freedom now to use your voice in a way that feels joyful and liberating. So that was my history as a natural voice choir leader, and I still do that. But my health coaching work has now, become much more prominent. So all the way through, it's been helping people to find joy, to find a better quality of life, to find more freedom, to bring their gifts to the world. And at the moment, right now, to be able to do that through health transformation feels like the best gift I can bring. So there's purpose in terms of individual health transformation and finding that freedom. But then there's this calling to change the world in a bigger way. And that's always been there, because I'm not satisfied with helping one person. I want to help 100 people. And with the singing, I wanted to help thousands of people. So I have been known to bring huge massed choirs together, big flash mobs, that kind of thing. It's always been, let's do this bigger. And so now my health transformation program, I do coach in groups as well as one-to-one, but that's not big enough for me. I want a foundation. I want to help people to overcome the grips of the food industry and discover this freedom just through natural eating. It's really, really simple, but in a bigger way. So how do I do that? And what's coming up for me lately is we've got to help teenagers. We've got to help teenagers with their food relationship. Now, my ideal client, my typical client is, as I said, women, 40s, 50s, 60s. Usually they have either teenagers or grown-up youngsters. And usually they're struggling with the way they're eating too. And usually they're struggling with ailments or mental well-being or body image. And they don't realize yet the connection with being manipulated in the way we're eating. And it's not their fault. So my next mission that I see is if we can help the younger demographic, our teens and our youngsters, to feel more empowered with food, then that's a whole generation that we can help. So I'm looking at, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm doing a program at the moment called Lead the Change, which is hopefully going to give me a platform, a clear message, and a way forward to help everybody to help their teenagers and their young people. And that usually starts with the woman setting the example, the mum setting the example. So what that could look like, I do not know yet, but it's going to be big.
I really do feel this. And when I asked you the question at the beginning about the purpose, there was this sharp intake of breath and just a pause, because it means so much and you wanted to just give it your all before you started speaking. I sense there's also an underlying anger. Am I right with this?
Oh, yes. Oh, you're so right. You've hit the nail on the head. Now, the anger is not with people who are doing the best they can and failing at this and feeling like they can't do that. My anger is at the food industry for the lies and the manipulation. Now, I have a lot of clients in the food industry, and much love to everybody who's working in whatever role they are. I'm not saying that people who work in the food industry are bad people, but what I am saying is at the top of the chain, there is knowledge that the way they're processing our food and marketing it and misleading us is damaging our health. There is knowledge, and there is the conscious decision to do the best they can to generate profits. And in order to do the best they can to generate profits, that's business. But in doing that, they are brushing under the carpet the fact that they are directly impacting our health. We know this now. If you just look at the type 2 diabetes rates, the rates of growth in type 2 diabetes, as just one thing. And you look at how type 2 diabetes is affecting us, which is meant to be mature onset diabetes. And it's now affecting people younger and younger and younger because of the sugar that they're putting in food, because of the dependence upon convenience food, fast food, and this idea that but this is healthy because it's got vitamin D printed on the front, or this is healthy because it's low fat, or this is healthy because it's got one of your 5 a day. And most of those claims are on foods that are damaging in some way. And so my anger is at the food industry for manipulating us and not being honest with us. All profits, fair enough, but it doesn't require manipulation of an entire generation to generate healthy profits. That's the problem we've got. And people are confused about what they can eat and what's healthy and what's not. So I want to, I can't set out on a mission to change the food industry, because let's face it, big corporate, the only way we can change big corporations is by changing the demand. So if we start to demand healthier, less processed, more honesty with food. For example, you go into any supermarket and look on the back of a packet of sliced ham. All you want is some cold meat, some healthy cold meat. You look on the back of the packet and every single one contains added sugar. And the only reason for that is to manipulate us into thinking it's more tasty than the next brand. Now, if we start at low level and start writing to our local supermarket, having a conversation with the butcher, having a conversation with retail food outlets. Oh, what have you got available? Have you got anything that doesn't contain sugar? Have you got anything natural and unprocessed? And once that demand starts to be there at street level, then that will send a message up to the big corporates that people are asking for healthier food now.
I hear you. And I watched a program earlier this year, You Are What You Eat. It's on Netflix. And I think that's what it's called. What You Are or What You Eat, something like that. And it was a twin study, and they have one on a vegan diet and one on a carnivorous diet. And it was only a short period of time. And it was fascinating to see what was happening from their body within that very short period of time. It was like 6 weeks or so. Change can happen really fast, and change for the good can happen really fast. And you said that you can't change this alone. And, rightly so, but change does begin with the individual. So if, as you say, everybody takes responsibility to make these changes, the ripple very quickly will make a difference. So you mentioned you're on Lead the Change. It's an incredible program. I've been on it myself. And there is a piece about collaboration, that you can't do this alone. It's about reaching out and asking others to join you with this calling to affect the change that you desire in the world. Who do you believe who needs to hear this message from you today that will help you to get this mission on its way?
There's a few different groups of people. I've talked about the typical client for me, the woman, 40s, 50s, 60s, wanting to release some weight so that she can feel like she's in her true body, not to be a certain size or shape. All right, let's let that go. I've got women who come through my program who are, in a size sort of 20, 26, whatever it is. When they release a dress size or two, the way they feel is fantastic. It doesn't matter. It's all relative. It doesn't matter what size or shape you are. What matters is how you feel in your body when you start eating better. That's the important thing. So it's that group of women who will typically have family, maybe daughters, sisters, and clients that they can influence by leading the change, by being the change. And that's not about losing weight. It's about embedding this new attitude to healthy eating that comes only when you've seen what it can do for you. And you don't even need to say a word, because when you experience that, people just look at you and go, wow, you're looking radiant. What's changed about you? They don't say, oh, you've lost weight. They say that if you've done a diet. They so there's something about you that's radiant. You have to tell me what you're doing. And then you'll say, well, I'm just eating all these lovely, delicious natural foods. So there's that group. But there's also, I'd love to reach out to those who are led into thinking that if they buy a certain plant-based food or health food or supplement or shake or protein bar or anything like that, that they are told is healthy or even good for the environment in some way, to treat that with suspicion. Because anything in a packet with a list of ingredients and bright, images and print on the packet that's manipulating us. So and there's this massive movement towards plant-based. Yes, we know that eating more plants, natural whole foods, is beneficial, but it doesn't mean that you need to be vegan in order to be healthy. In fact, it's the contrary. It's harder for vegans to get all the right nutrients than it is for somebody who is what we call flexitarian. Okay, so watch out for the claims where you buy this plant-based product and you're going to be healthier and contribute to our environment. Treat that with suspicion and do some proper research. So the answer is, yeah, by all means be vegan. Do make sure you're getting your natural based proteins from somewhere. But the point of it is, and this is starting to be understood now with the likes of Zoe, the health study, Chris Van Tullecken that you mentioned earlier. I think was it the twin study? Was it the Van Tulleckens? All the names, and if you just got to listen to a podcast from Stephen Bartlett or Rangan Chatterjee, all these big names, they're all starting to realize that we just need to eat in the way we evolved to eat as humans, which means doesn't necessarily mean vegan or vegetarian, but it does mean a lot of plants and whole foods in their natural unprocessed state. And it's not easy. It's not easy to do that on your own, because we've had this lifetime of eating out of a packet. So you're going to need somebody to walk you through how you do that.
Yeah, I hear you. And the Zoe podcasts are fantastic. I've been listening to them a lot. Well, actually, even better, my husband listens to them and then he gives me like the real core notes, and because he's involved in the cooking and he does all of the food at the house, he is very, very particular about what we're eating. We make our own, well, he makes sourdough bread at home every day, which is just fantastic. And that has been a revelation, not just for my husband and I, but for the kids, for my mum, because the immediacy of the difference of not being bloated anymore is just phenomenal. So I'm hearing the message loud and clear. I've made significant health changes myself this year, including, well, it started last year, including a year now of not drinking. So it's a massive shift in lots of things. And I hear what you said about this societal influence and also being led by an industry. A lot of what I learned in that program, You Are What You Eat, which was it's a Stanford University led particular uh, study that they did. So they were talking about how, and it links in with what Zoe said, a lot of what was done in terms of calorie studies and things like that, or changing the way that manufacturing was such, was because it was post-war. People needed more things. They needed to have certain things in their diet, and then became mass production. And that shift has really made a huge difference in the way that we now see the food in our supermarkets. You're right. What you've been sharing is absolutely critical, to be wary of labeling. The way that it's labeled is so misleading. You think you're buying something that is better for you. Zoe will educate you and say often that low fat is way worse. And you think you're doing okay, but you're not. The calories, again, misleading.
It means nothing.
No. And I was listening to one about nuts, and where they were talking about, you think that nuts are high in fat. And yes, if you grind it to absolute powder where you consumed all of that, but you don't, because you don't break it down as much as that. So it's still good for you. And this is the thing, you're educating, and it is about educating yourself, isn't it?
Mm. It's about breaking free from all the things we've been taught about calories, low fat. None of it makes any sense at all. It's all been proven to be nonsense. Yes, if somebody is concerned about releasing weight, yes, ultimately, the amount of energy in your food contributes to the weight on your body. But you don't change that by counting calories, because the calories they print on the pack have no reflection on the calories you absorb anyway. You're absolutely right. It depends on how processed that food is, how ground down it is. So eating a handful of nuts that weighs the same as some like ground, whatever, ground almonds or whatever it is, highly processed. There's a complete difference in the amount of energy you absorb from that. So we've got to break free from this idea of counting calories. And instead of that, focus on eating more natural. And here's the thing, when you eat nuts and you eat vegetables and you eat fruit, whole fruit, and good quality meat, and I do eat meat and fish, but maybe not as much as I used to. But where I do buy it, I'm buying wild caught salmon, for example, grass-fed beef. I'm trying to get local. I'm trying to get organic, because that, in terms of the environment, that's the best thing we can be doing, is buying local, organic. What's the name of farming that I'm regenerative farming? It's something that I'm just starting to look into. That's the answer, I'm told. It's not everybody going plant-based. It's looking at regenerative farming. So, and eating less, less meat where they want to, but making sure they're getting all their nutrition. So it's about having a new relationship with food that's much more connected with nature. And it helps to look at how humans evolved. So there's a number of different ways of, and there's no one size fits all, right? Because we're all different. But here's the thing, when we eat in a more natural way and we're eating more whole foods, the calories take care of themselves. And there's no need to count them. And there's no need to minimize fats. Just when you eat the way nature provided for you, that's just the way we're meant to be eating. The body takes care of its own appetite. And even we have a built-in mechanism to know what nutrient we need. We know this. Every animal on the planet can do this. And there are studies that prove it in humans, because there's studies that show that toddlers do this. If left to their own devices with all the foods they could possibly need, including treat foods, they naturally fulfill their own nutritional needs without overeating. So humans have this built in. It's just that we've had decades of override by foods that taste incredibly rewarding. So this incredible, added flavors and this manipulation. I think food manufacturers have even been known to add flavors into the packaging so that you get a waft of flavor up your nose, and then you get energy hit so that the body goes, oh, reward. And so all these messages that have been fed to us over the decades have distorted our natural appetite, and we're left with cravings, we're left with emotional eating because of associations of things we were given when we were little, and it all culminates in a very unnatural, unintuitive relationship with food. So here's what happens when we go back to eating natural: intuitive eating falls into place, and so that you don't need to try anymore. You just know that you need to get back to your principles of natural eating. And it's not to say that there is no joy in that, because what happens is your taste buds change. Your taste buds, whereas before they were being conditioned into appreciating the flavors in processed foods more, the immediate hit, actually your taste buds become more aware, more discerning, and you start to taste the nastiness in processed food. You start to notice that it does give you some kind of instant hit, but it's not necessarily nice what it's doing to you. And actually then you start to enjoy the fresher, more clean feeling and taste of natural food. You start to enjoy that more. So it is a shift, and you also start to enjoy not feeling overly full, but just satisfied. So it's not as hard as you might think it is at first.
No, and what you just said there about the taste buds changing. I remember when the kids were very little and we started to sort of wean them onto food, we stripped out salt from the diet and didn't add it to the food, but we always ate the same as the children. As they were growing up, we had the same meals, and my husband and I barely ever added it back in fact, very rarely, and we still don't now. And I remember my grandmother adding salt to her food before she'd even tasted it. And you say about your salt, your taste buds change. Eating food which is natural, as you say, and this is our rule in the house: if it doesn't look how it was grown, then it doesn't get eaten in our house, pretty much,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
That's a really good rule of thumb.
Yeah. And the other one is such that you become a chemistry experiment. You see these videos on YouTube where people put the Mentos into a fizzy carbonated drink and it explodes. If that was your body, would you do that? Well, essentially, people are. They're eating those two things in combination. And that's the thing. It's like, yes, there's this one food which has got a certain number of additives and numbers and various different chemicals and preservatives in it. Then you've got another one. You don't know what chemistry experiment is going to be created as a result of combining them. And these products are not sold. They're sold separately. They're not sold together.
You mentioned a couple of things that I'd love to pick up on there. And that's, first of all, the idea of how families eat, and we've been manipulated into thinking that children will only eat chips and chicken nuggets and those kids' food. You go into any pub, kids' menu, different from the grown-ups menu. What's that all about? Kids did not evolve to eat different food from the grown-ups. So the way I coach, and I know people will say, oh, but trust me, my kids will only eat this and will only eat that. And I know, I've got kids myself, I know. But here's the thing. You've got to start eating the same foods but offering lots of different choice. So the way I coach is, if they're obsessed with their chips and chicken nuggets, it might not be that, it might be something else, might be plain pasta, might be whatever. Whatever it is the kids are confidently eating, you put that on the table in bowls for everybody. And then what the grown-ups are eating, like say, for example, somebody who's come through my program and they're eating purely natural, lovely, delicious foods, they've probably got a bolognese on the table, or they've got some fish or some chicken breasts or some spiralized vegetables or a delicious tray of roasted veg. And whatever's been made, out it goes in its own dish on the table. Now everybody helps themselves. And that is the way that kids learn to eat what we're eating, by example, well, without feeling like we're taking their chips and chicken nuggets off them. Because now they go, oh, what are you having? Well, I'm having these delicious roasted. Well, they look nice. Can I try one? Okay, you can try it. And they will develop it. There's no pressure on them, but they're trying things. And with some kids who are particularly picky, particularly those kids who are neurodivergent, we see it all the time. They have their set ways, and those set ways are what they've been brought up with. And we would never have eaten a chicken nugget if it wasn't available readily on the soup. It would have been natural food, right? But they like consistency. So we give them what they need. We don't create any anxiety by taking things away, but we just add. We add more good, delicious, healthy stuff to the range of things available on the table. And if there's more than everybody needs to eat, well, that's brilliant, because then you can put it in a container and get it out for lunch the next day. You've got your lunch ready made. So it's variety of good, healthy things without taking away the things that we're trying to eliminate. And gradually, there will be this natural progression towards the healthier, more natural stuff. Watch it and see it unfold. It really works.
I believe you. And I was watching the Blue Zones with Dan Buettner, and he talks to one of the centenarians it's over in South America somewhere. And he interviews his granddaughter and his great grandson. And she said, oh, look at this. Dan is explaining how fantastic it is and how healthy their diet is that they've been brought up with. And she said, oh, well, but my children aren't eating that diet. They're eating what they want, essentially, and what they see then. And you just see this complete delegation of responsibility to a child who's dictating what they want. But they didn't know that that was available. It's been allowed, as you say. And it is frustrating that you have these old ways, the ways of before, from going back, centuries, that created a fantastic diet and also seasonal. We haven't even talked about, what's in season as well. Oh, I could talk forever about this. It's such a passionate subject, but you're right. The food industry is leading many astray, and it is your individual responsibility to take a different viewpoint and get educated.
And
So
it's not
thank you.
our fault. That it's not our fault that our kids are eating the chicken nuggets, right? It's the food industry. It's everything we're exposed to. And it's not our fault that we're feeling dependent upon convenience food. It's because we've been told it's quicker. And actually, if you'd been taught by somebody with the skills that I now have, oh, I'll show you what's quicker. It's batch cooking. It's prepping when you've got 10 minutes. That's quicker. That's true convenience. Not eating out of a packet, because that's not true convenience, because if it makes you feel sluggish and lethargic, you're not gaining anything. So that's the critical thing, it's not our fault that we believe these things, but it is our responsibility, now that we're aware, to do something about it. And I would say to anybody, by all means, get in touch with me to talk about what I coach. But there's ways you can get clued up about natural eating. And if anybody's really interested in this, I mentioned Chris Van Tulleken, Ultra Processed People. That's the book. That's the book to read. And then if you want to learn how to break free from that, come and talk to me.
I'm sure people will. And thank you so much for sharing all you've shared so far today in this episode. It's been a real snapshot of what is possible as a result of a shift in what you put inside your mouth. So thank you. It really is so key to understand health and what then the ripple effect is on our body, our brain, our whole way of being. So thank you. How could people connect with you? I'll put it all in the show notes, but what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so I'm always available for a chat. Okay. And if they have a look on my website, you'll see there's a button, they can just book a chat with me. But if you don't want to, you're not ready to just reach out, but you just want to find out more, all that information is on my website. So that's sueellar.com. I know you'll put the link in. On my website, there's loads of free resources. Okay. So there's a guide to the 6 different human hungers, for example. It's like once you understand that it's not just one kind of hunger, there's actually 6 that we need to understand in order to nourish each one of those. Once you're free from the what you might call false hungers, free from those, emotional eating, low blood sugar, hunger, then you can start to get empowered. So there's freebies on my website that will help you with that. I'd love it if you could follow me on Facebook and just engage with my posts, because there's so much you can learn just by watching, listening to what others have done, and just getting into this world of a fresh new approach to food.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sue. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Do you have some final words, please?
My final words would be your health. We know that our future health is important, and we know that depends on healthy eating. But your health is about so much more. It's about how you feel in your body right now, these days, these weeks, these months, these years. And when you're eating for better health, not only do you get that long-term result that's possibly a bit far away to connect with, but you get an immediate result that makes you more productive, more energetic, more vibrant, that you can really start to enjoy your life now. So don't think so much about health in the future. Think about health now and what that can do for you.
What value have you gained from tuning into Focus on Why today? What are your reflections with actions? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or via LinkedIn and share how Focus on Why has made a difference to you. Your feedback not only will inspire others, but will help them to discover how Focus on Why has created powerful ripple effects. Let's continue the conversation. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook or X, join the Focus on Why Facebook group, and sign up for my weekly newsletter, Friday Focus, to keep in touch. All the links are in the show notes. Have a purpose, have a plan, focus on why.